So I'm going to tell you about our new book, Champions of Illusion, which is about the Illusion of the Year contest, some of you have actually participated in it. Kokichi's won the contest several times with his illusions. I want to talk to you about what illusions are. Now, I know a lot of people think optical illusions are some of these impossible figures, for example, but optical illusions really are illusions that are due to the physics of the world. So if you have a glass of water with a pencil in it, it looks like it breaks at the surface, that's an optical illusion. It's due to the quantum physics of light, and it happens whether you're a camera or not. You don't need a brain. It's due to optics. A visual illusion is due to something that happens in the brain. It has nothing to do with the physics of the world outside the head, and it has to do with the way that information is processed in the brain. So you need to distinguish between optical illusions and visual illusions in order to understand them. Let me give you an idea of a visual illusion here. So fixate on the center cross right there. And as you fixate, I want you to keep your eyes very still, and you'll see that these A-list actors, as they change their face, they start to become highly distorted and grotesque as you fixate, until they're just really awful caricatures of themselves. Now, if you look at their face directly, and then back, you'll see that they're normal, beautiful A-list actors. Then you look back at the cross, and they're awful again. That just happened. So this is happening in your brain right now. This is a type of adaptation illusion that's due to the way the neurons in your face-specific areas of your brain fire in response to themselves being stimulated beforehand. Okay, so another example of an illusion like this would be the Ebbinghaus illusion. It's a famous classic illusion, but they've taken this to one step further. So you see that this dot here is actually smaller than the one on the right. My pointer isn't showing up on the screen, but anyway, you see that if you look at the dot on the left, it doesn't change size when you change the outside. But now, if you look at the yellow dot in the center of that same dot as the outside circles change, you can see it does appear to change size, even though it's not really, due to processing in your brain and the comparison between these object sizes. But this gets into hyperdrive if you fixate the yellow dot now and pay attention to that center dot as it moves in the periphery of your vision. Wow, that really changes size, but not really. You're all crazy. All right, so a classic illusion that Richard Gregory discovered. He's the one who first proposed the idea that what the brain is, that illusions happen because this is where the brain gets it wrong. And we disagree with that idea. It's not where the brain gets it wrong. As I'll talk about in a little while, it's in fact the fundamental essence of all perception. So let me explain that a little further. But he discovered this illusion here called the cafe wall illusion. And you can imagine how the masons felt, who care very much about their straight lines, when they laid out these bricks and none of the lines seem to be parallel. That must be very frustrating when you're using a carpenter's square that proves that they are in fact parallel. Now, Victoria Sky has taken this one step further now, and these blue horizontal lines are actually all completely horizontal and parallel. Now, I know some of you don't believe me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur this out, and when I blur it, these little squares at the corners of things, the checked squares, will be blurred, and you'll see that your visual system, once they can't see those checked squares, which somehow, in ways that we don't really understand in the brain yet, make the illusion go away. So keep watching it as we blur it, and you can see they still look crooked, not so much. As soon as you can't see those checked squares, it looks like it should, which is parallel in your brain. Yes, Victoria Sky did a great job. She was one of the winners this last year. Okay, so I want to tell you about illusions and what they're for. So how does the brain deceive ourselves? And more important, why do we experience these illusions instead of the truth? So let's talk about that. So neural limitations lead to neural deceptions, such as filling in the blanks. Okay, so that's one of the things that these illusions are doing for us for a good reason. They're seeking structure for us, and they're improving narratives. Okay, so let me show you examples of this, and we'll talk a little bit why that happens. So filling the blanks is a good example of this would be this illusion by Gardini and Gambarini. So you can see 3 swatches of gray here, and there's not a lot of structure here. You don't see much. It's just a couple of rectangles. But if I now move it you now start to get the feeling of maybe there's some 3D going on here. Maybe we're looking at the corner of a room, and the wall on the left is lit, and there's indirect light on the other surfaces, something like that. But if I now put in, say, some Pac-Man, now you start to see, oh, wow, there's actually a triangle in there, and in fact, the light's coming from the other direction on the left surface of that triangle, and the other side's getting hit. But in fact, there's no triangle at all because there's not complete edges. Your brain is actually inventing the triangle in the first place. And so if we now combine those things, it gets even stronger, they showed, and now we see a rotating pyramid that doesn't really exist. That's all you, right? So what you have here is some corners, you have a moving swatch, and your brain creates a clear three-dimensional object out of nothing in your brain. So this is starting to give us the feeling that these illusions might be important for something, right? So let's talk about improving...
30 seconds.
Thank you. Seeking structures. If you fixate the center here, this is from Ryota Kanai, what you'll see is that the rectilinear structure in the center, as you fixate, fills out, and the whole thing becomes rectilinear as you fixate after about 30 seconds. So instead of having random structure in the periphery, you then have what ends up being completely rectilinear structure. So we have no idea how this works, but the brain is imposing structure on us in order to see things in a certain way. That is clear. All right, so in terms of improving narratives, one example is from Johansen Hall and their colleagues, in which they invented choice blindness. So here's two women that they had subjects compare. They were already rated as equally attractive. And so a subject would pick one that they liked the best, and the person would give them the card and then ask them, why did they choose that? Now, many people, like some of you, didn't notice that the card had been switched, that between the second and the fourth picture there, the card that was chosen had been swapped out magically for another card. And what the people did when they were asked why did they choose that one, the ones who didn't notice, they confabulated why they chose that one.
You need to wrap it up, Stephen.
Okay, so they would say things like, the one on the right is radiant. She would rather approach her in a bar than the other one. She likes earrings. Well, that's a big fat lie, because the other one that they actually chose isn't wearing earrings. She looks like an aunt of mine, I think. I think she seems nicer than the other. Pants on fire. All right, so yes, well, she looks very hot in this picture. Okay, maybe some of the reasons are not too complicated. And just a nice shape of the face and the chin. I thought she had more personality.
We need to move on if we can.
I don't know. That was the last one. Now, I have a table upstairs with a few books, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody who wants to know about why it is happening in the brain that these things happen. But thank you very much for your time.